Hi, I'm Yungnicole. I'm 29. I work in the film and television industry in post. I'm living in Oakland right now, with my lover. I like saying lover. I say lover because it makes people very uncomfortable.
Right?
Especially draw it out like that.
Lavelle.
Do you look at him straight in the eyes like that too when you say it every time?
Oh, my Lavelle. Oh, oh.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we've been together almost 4 years.
Oh,
4 years.
congratulations.
Yeah, 4 years in February.
Ooh, wow, it's coming up. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it is coming up, yeah.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Snowflake. I'm 30. Grew up in New York, moved to Oakland 2 years ago. And I work at a startup. I work in ops startup, and I actually moved out here for work shortly before the pandemic. And then turns out I didn't even need to move, right? Because everyone started working remote, so I could have just been in New York the whole time. But now
Yeah.
I'm here living with Yungnicole, and excited to be on the podcast today.
What's the story on how you two met?
So I had just moved to New York from where I was living before, and I hadn't been to any kink parties before. I dated very vanilla people who refused to top me because that was too mean. And so I was like, okay, I'm finally here. There's finally gonna be sex parties. I'm not living with my folks, so I can finally do this. And then first weekend I go to my first one and there he is. And it was I don't know, it was very just like, "Oh, there you are. I've been looking for you."
You just locked eyes across the room.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So at the time, I was also, I wasn't looking for anything in particular. Like I was 3 months out of a long-term relationship, and I was kind of just slutting around, like as
Hmm.
one does. And
Yeah.
I had my eyes on young Nicole. It was like caught my eye. We flirted the first night there at that party, but we didn't get to play. It was one of those dungeon parties with like, a lot of people playing around.
Hmm.
Dungeon equipment everywhere. But I gave you my FetLife business card. I used to carry these around a lot more than I do now, but I have printed these business cards, personal business cards, just with my FetLife name on it. That
Hmm.
I hand out to people when I meet when I want them to connect with me.
And I used it as a bookmark for my Murakami book, which is Jesus Christ. And
um,
then we got to play at a Twin Peaks themed party though.
Yeah, we played at future parties, so we stay connected.
And
oh,
then our first date was Valentine's Day.
mhm.
We were gonna make it ironic. It was gonna be, oh, this isn't an actual romantic Valentine's Day. We're just fucking. But we weren't just fucking, were we?
No.
No,
No.
no. It's our anniversary now.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never really thought about creating like a personal card for like your FetLife handle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Does that work out? Like, how efficient is that to have?
Well, originally I printed those for a very specific purpose, and that's why I have so many. I printed like 500
Mm-hmm.
of them back when I was living in Hong Kong, and I was helping organize the Asia King Con back then. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be an event organizer. I'm gonna like make these copies, and I'm gonna hand them out to people. And then I moved back to New York, and it turns out that having a few of these in my wallet is like super clutch. Like I would go to events and people would want to connect with me, or somebody cute I was flirting with or played with, right? And like if you're at the stage that I think this is like pretty normal in the kink culture, which is if you're at the stage where you want to connect with somebody that you just met, maybe at a play party, or maybe at a kinky speed dating or whatever, but you're not at the level of comfort where you want to give out your phone number, right? But you want to stay connected, or even like your vanilla Facebook, right? And so you give each other you connect on FetLife. and people misspell FetLife names all the time. So like you never know. Like you write something down, they can't read your handwriting. I've gotten like notes written for me, right, on pieces of paper, and like I go home, I type it in, and it's like nothing comes up. Either they misspelled it or they just were trying to throw me for a loop. So to
Yeah.
avoid that, I just started handing out my card, and it has my name printed on it, and everyone can look it up, and if they want to connect with me, they can do that.
And it is a great bookmark.
Point taken. Point taken.
That quality card stock.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm hella fidgety, don't worry about it. I mean, we've been poly and kinky from the start.
Mhm.
Like, that's just how our relationship was founded.
Okay.
Like, I mean, on that, like, Valentine's Day date, you put, like, a remote-controlled vibe in me while we were ice skating and controlled that, and
Yep.
That must have been fun.
but yeah, I mean, we've sort of been building our dynamic. You collared me after a year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, we're still not collared, like master, slave, owner, owned. I tend to layer a bunch of dynamics on top of each other. I'm
Mhm.
a lot.
Yeah.
I'm also, I guess as like a quick note, I'm very ADD, and so talking to me is a little like listening to freeform jazz. I will go on tangents. I swear to God, I'm not a ditz. This is why I don't know why God made me do this. Why I'm very shy all of a sudden, I guess. Like,
So you said it took a year to collar, right?
yeah. I mean, it would feel weird to like be collared earlier than that, because then it's like, what? Because it's a big step. You're owned by someone. Why would you do that to like the first dude who like says "Hey slut" in your DMs? And
Mhm.
like, I think maybe if you're a horny like 20-year-old, like right out of college, and you're like, I Jimmy, that like that's some shit you might do, but like, no, I was like, when we met, I was like, no, like I actually said I don't want to rush this because I like you too much. Like I was real scared to like say I love you for the first time.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was like a year was us like really holding out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to collar me like when?
Probably like a few months in, but I also like, there's a difference between wanting and knowing that it's a good idea, right? Because like,
Yeah.
I don't choose my desires, but I can choose what I do with them. And
Mhm.
it is like a lot of responsibility. Like collaring someone's a huge responsibility. I was like not sure that I wanted to like declare that I own you
Right.
early on. But then, after a while, it felt like, this was getting somewhere, and that it seems like this is going to be a long-term thing, and it just felt right.
Yeah. So what responsibilities would you say comes with, collaring? Like making that decision to actually do it together.
Yeah. So, when you own someone, you just are so responsible for their overall well-being, right? Like, you are basically saying that like they give you all the power to basically just make decisions, whether they're like casual things, right? Day-to-day things, or sexy things, or you know, um, role play things. But you're basically receiving all of this decision making ability to like make the call for like the two of us, right?
Mhm.
And like sometimes I struggle making decisions just for myself, right?
Yeah.
How am I going to make a decision for myself and for somebody else, as a unit, like
Mhm.
together, right? And so it is a big responsibility. I think a lot of people, a lot of like people who are starting out being doms, like they don't realize that, right? They only see the sexy
Mhm.
aspect of it. They see the porny aspect of it, and they think that being an owner is just like getting to fuck whenever you want, right? And
Mhm.
whenever you want with your submissive. But there's a lot of emotional responsibility. I just feel very I feel like I have to be very sort of nurturing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of your like needs and your your wants, your needs. Um, I feel like I have to take care of you because I break you down so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the DS seeps into outside the bedroom, right? It's not just like these kind of like carefully contained scenes, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
where it's like scene, aftercare, boom, done, right? Like when you have like an ongoing ownership dynamic where every day there can be little reminders of that power dynamic, then really the aftercare is kind of continuous, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
like throughout throughout the week, throughout the month, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is the big difference between like just like weekend warrior versus 24/7.
Yeah.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
that the lines do blur. And I think also because we are polyamorous as well as being in a DS dynamic, it means that like because those lines blur, it also means you like I mean, I think already if you are an owner only, there's a lot of communication that has to happen about like what feels comfortable for everybody. And then add poly on top of that, and it's a lot of like you have to be really emotionally mature and you really have to like be in touch with what you want, or if you're not, and if you can't figure out why something's bothering you, you have to like kind of sit with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, but like I mean, I think it like honestly has made me a much better communicator. And I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like you're an amazing communicator.
Oh, thank
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, communication is definitely key.
Absolutely. I mean, just for any relationship, honestly, but I feel like definitely predominant submission and definitely for poly and just rackets everything up.
Yeah. So how did you know poly was for you?
So I had been in poly relationships where I was like the side dish and not the main course. And I had seen it not go well, but there was part of me that knew that it could go well if like it could go right if it wasn't being done by like a bunch of college kids in a small town. And then when I met Snowflake and Snowflake talked about like being in poly, like and like having so much experience in it, I was like, all right, let me give it a shot with this guy. And honestly, it's been the best poly's ever felt for me because I feel 1,000% respected
Mm-hmm.
and like listened to.
Well, so I have been poly for as long as I've been dating, which is since my first college relationship, which was
Mm-hmm.
kinky and poly. So I guess I've never really dated monogamously in
Mm-hmm.
my life. Yeah, that when people talked about abundance being the main sort of being such a integral aspect of the poly mindset, right? Instead of coming from a position of scarcity, right? Thinking about,
Yeah.
oh, love is scarce, no one will ever love me. Thank God I found the one person who loved me. Now I'm gonna lock you down forever. Like that kind of scarcity mindset, transitioning from that to a more of an abundance mindset already aligned with like a lot of the values that I held, right? Which is about like abundance for everyone, right? Like material abundance
Mm-hmm.
for everyone, right? Like people shouldn't be starved for food or housing or healthcare or anything like that. So,
Open borders.
exactly. So there's this I wish for there to be so much abundance for humans like on this planet already that when I heard that that kind of mindset being
Mm-hmm.
kind of one of the main pillars of being polyamorous. I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. That's what I'm gonna be doing now.
What has been the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome in your relationship?
Hmm.
I mean, I think living together is a transition for like any relationship, and we started like living together. We started living together right when the pandemic started.
Oh wow.
So it's,
Okay.
like we've
Uh,
never. First of all, I've never lived with anyone. I've never lived with a
Neither
partner
have I.
before.
oh
Neither have I.
wow.
Never
What?
lived with a partner before. So neither. But and then the first time we're living together is like to deal with this pandemic,
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
And I'm a super ADD person who comes from kind of a messy house. You're from a standard East Asian family with a very clean house.
I mean, I consider myself messy. You see all the like stuff back there. Like
Yeah.
by my family standards, I am the messiest person.
Any advice for those that aren't sure if poly is for them?
Well, I think like we do a very specific kind of poly because it interacts with our kink dynamic. So since we're in a oni master slave thing, like the way because he owns me, the way it is that like I can play with whatever submissives and whatever like vanilla people I want to without asking him. But if I want to play with another dominant, I gotta like get his approval, and like and the dominant like should develop kind of a friendly relationship with Snowflake. Like it doesn't have to be forced or anything, just like a hey, I know you're the boss. Mind if I rent out your lady? No problem. Handshake. Handshake. I'm acting this all out. Pantomime.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. And I think maybe the lesson to take from that for people who are not necessarily into like that hardcore DS is like you can tailor polydynamics to match what you need. Like there's definitely like the more not like where like what there's poly where like everyone's like pretty much equal. There's poly where like there's where you're in like a throuple, or if you're in like a V, where like one person's dating two people.
Right.
You can do don't ask, don't tell, where like other people like you guys just like have sex with other people and you have some baseline rules, but you don't want to talk about it. That's an option some people do.
I think that one's one of the most like sketchy relationships.
I don't like.
Yeah, I would not engage in that, but you know, it works for some people. I'm not gonna wrap it if it works for some people.
Yeah, if it's it feels. I just want to make sure that no one's lying to me when they say they're poly.
Yeah. Trust but verify.
Yeah. I want to be able to like, if I'm gonna hook up with someone new and they have a partner, I want to be able to hit the partner like, hey, y'all are actually, you're cool with this. You're cool with this? Okay, good. We're cool.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to add, babe?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would like to say to people who are not sure if they're into non-monogamy, let's just use the broader umbrella term because there's like a lot of types of that's not necessarily specifically polyamory, right? You could be in an open relationship, you could be a swinger, whatever. I guess what I would say is that how do they know? I'm gonna flip the question back to them. How do they know that monogamy is for them? Right? Like monogamy is a totally valid choice for many people, but it should be a choice, right? It should be a conscious decision, and people should be doing monogamy with intention rather than that just being like the default like checkbox, right? And so you know, and you don't have, it's not, you know, they don't have to figure it out right away. People are on their journeys, right? Sometimes people go through, you know, certain explorations and then decide, yep, monogamy actually turns out monogamy is the thing that I want for the rest of my life. And then they go or not. So, you know, I think it's fine to be not sure for a while, and it's fine to explore and try to discover yourself, but also just be aware that like the societal default choice should be chosen with strong intention.
Yeah, and I mean, if you do poly, you need to do it for yourself. Don't do it because you think it's going to like save a relationship with someone. If you're not
the common mistake, right?
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do poly and then hook up with people to punish the partner, because I've seen that.
Ooh.
Please don't use like
no.
Don't like, oh my god, just maybe kids in college shouldn't do poly until you like
put an age limit on it, you know?
Honestly, maybe like before the age of 21.
Minimum.
Yeah, this sounds more like a maturity thing.
I've seen some shit, man. I've seen people like in my dorm room crying hysterically because
XYZ so happened, right?
Yeah, I'm just staring into the just Save It Private Ryan moment. Just
Well, you also went to like really hippie school where like everybody was like trying to do all this like
Oh.
radical shit, but their frontal lobes haven't developed, right? So
yeah,
they can't make good decisions.
or it's like let's dumpster dive behind the Dunkin' Donuts and get all these free bagels. They're not throwing them out. Now I have all these bagels I can't eat. Don't do the poly equivalent of dumpster diving too many bagels.
Too many bagels. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Common misconceptions about poly relationships.
Common misconceptions. I think there's a tendency for people who are like not in the know, right, to kind of assume that it's all about sex,
Mm-hmm.
and that like mostly polyamorous people are poly because they're slutty. True, I am a brother,
Yeah, no.
yes, but that's not that's not like all of it, right?
Right.
There are slutty people who are swingers, right? And they go to swing clubs and they hook up with other partners, other couples, right? They do partner swapping or whatever, and like that's not polyamory,
No, it's not.
but it's still slutty, right?
Yeah.
Or you could be a serial monogamous and just sleep around, like that's totally fine too.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I think for one of the biggest motivations for a lot of people to do polyamory is this idea that you can get your needs and sourced from multiple sources, right? You can have a lot of different types of people in your life who all bring their unique value to your life and are worthwhile to engage with, and for as long or as short as it could be, right? As long or as short as those relationships could last, and just have a diversity of experience and a diversity of and an abundance of love, and that's really the purpose, right, of
Right.
not limiting yourself to just monogamy. So no, it is not just about sleeping around, just about having sex.
Listen to the full episode on all major platforms.